Premier, you've in the past had, on occasion, had strong words for the Prime Minister and his actions. How do you rate, or how do you rank, or how do you perceive what he's done with the Emergencies Act in the sort of pantheon of bad things he's done? Like, how bad is this? And I ask this question of you because a lot of people who've contacted me actually fear what could happen under this Emergencies Act. So how bad is this in the catalog of bad things this Prime Minister has done?
I think this is one of the biggest mistakes of any modern Canadian government. I think it's ironic that the son of the Prime Minister who brought in the War Measures Act to roll tanks onto the streets in 1970 has now decided to bring in the successor legislation to the War Measures Act, the Emergencies Act, with no good reason. This Prime Minister created the problem to begin with his trucker vax mandate. That is bad public health theater. A few thousand unvaccinated truckers who could maybe take a negative rapid test in the isolation of their cabs are somehow a public health menace in a continent with tens of millions of active COVID infections. This is ridiculous. He brought in that requirement just as the rest of the world started dropping public health restrictions. After months of an exemption, it made no sense. And then when truckers started to protest, he basically started calling all of the people who disagreed with him Nazis, calling them names, inflaming the situation. And then did nothing to deal with the blockades as they started, and then panicked and overreacted with this use of extreme powers that has extrajudicial powers. The Prime Minister is able to go in there now without going to a court to freeze people's bank accounts because of who they donated to or their opinions. His Justice Minister actually went out there and said that if you are from a pro-Donald Trump fund or something, you better watch out because we might freeze your assets. Excuse me. The Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Canada has said that if he disagrees with your political opinions, you better watch out because we might freeze and seize your bank account without going to a court. Rick, when we look back on Canadian historical injustices, we usually think about things like the internment of people of Ukrainian origin during the First World War, the internment of Japanese and Italian Canadians in the Second World War, and the War Measures Act in 1970. You know, prime ministers have had to stand up in Parliament to apologize for the use of the War Measures Act in the First and Second World Wars and how it was misapplied, the overreach. So I can't believe that he's going down this path. It is to try to distract, I think, from a problem that he created.